has had many noteworthy moments throughout the years, a few missteps but mostly golden. From his original debut in Donkey Kong to the NES and N64 and more recently Galaxy for Wii, the plumber continues to impress. While Super Mario World released on the Wii U, the plumber hadn't received a proper Galaxy-esque cinematic venture in the HD era until this came out. The question is it a glorious entrance or a high-res disaster? It's time to put on your best tux and prepare to crash a wedding on the moon as I review Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. Odyssey controls as polished as you can come to expect from the mainline Mario games. This is Nintendo after all, they certainly wouldn't release a Mario game without polish. Well, the new ones anyway, their shoddy emulations of older games aside. Of course, the new gameplay gimmick is Cappy. You can spin him at enemies or use him as a platform if you're fast enough. Oh yeah, and the inconsequential use of possessing your enemies. Hopefully Luigi doesn't mind his brother essentially being a possessor ghost. Cappy even has a ghost tail in his real form. With very few notable exceptions, you can't possess bosses, but practically every other malicious type is fair game, from Goombas to Hammer Bros and a dimension of new enemies too. You'll need them too to solve certain puzzles, and every one of them has unique abilities. Even Goombas are quite handy in icy areas because apparently they possess super friction and won't slide around. There are even swimming and flying enemies to possess. Of course, Cappy can do other things too, like be used to grab coins and clear out poison. Basically, Nintendo really wants to make sure you get into the habit of giving it the old toss the hat throughout your journey. Now, if only you could use him to decapitate a statue, the symbolism would truly be complete, but I guess Nintendo just didn't want to get that edgy. All joking aside, it otherwise feels like you'd well expect a Mario game too. Moving and jumping feels snappy, you can long or high jump, and jumping after ground pounding is actually a very good way to gain height. The high jump tends to position you backwards, so jumping after pounding is more reliable to get higher up, at least for me it was. Perhaps one of the more unique mechanics in the game outside of Cappy is going inside a warp pipe and going flat alongside the walls. When this happens, you're essentially 8-bit Mario walking around similarly 8-bit bite-sized levels. Admittedly, it's a nice way to pay homage to where Mario came from, and it even has 8-bit versions of his outfits. Speaking of which, you can purchase outfits in this game. Don't worry, it's not microtransactions spiked, it's all in-game currency. Both regular coins and special purple coins that are thematic to each world can be found, and the latter used to buy outfits specific to a world. You can always buy a Power Moon with coins in the shop, making it the easiest one to get in each world by far. There's always a unique Power Moon locked behind a door you need the world's outfit to get into, meaning you'll need both regular and purple coins to get all of them. Power Moons, of course, at this game stand in for stars, although one world in particular still represents them as stars for nostalgia. You can get them for doing a variety of things, from doing tasks to overcoming challenges to just finding them loose in the world. Certain significant actions like defeating bosses will actually give you multi-moons, and it's fairly obvious the game is pushing you towards doing those. On each level, you have a minimum amount you need to fuel the Odyssey ship they're using to pursue Bowser. It's basically the same formula as always, but at least being able to get multiple of them for doing more significant actions helps to put a spin on things. My favorite one to grab, of course, is a traditional festival, and that's because it's full of nostalgia goodness. Probably the one thing I wasn't such a big fan of was the game subtly trying to push you towards motion controls. They never require it, of course, you can play the whole game without it, but it's a gentle encouragement. Psst, hey kid, you can climb fast and toss your hat farther and do other things if you'd only just use some motion controls, I'm just saying. It seems unnecessary and I never really made use of it due to a lack of interest. It's ultimately small in the grand scheme of things, and it feels like an optional way to get ahead more than anything. While the game gave me a sweat at times, it's still a Mario game, so things are relatively on the casual and easy side. Gameplay-wise, it does everything it needs to do. The Cappy and 2D mechanics add enough to make it fresh, while the traditional Mario mechanics are as polished as ever. I think by now you know what you're in for if you play a Mario game. They've only had a few decades to fine-tune the formula, and they're good at what they do. Gameplay gets my wholehearted approval. It brings just enough heat to keep you on your toes without feeling even close to cheap or unfair. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Bowser grabs Peach and smacks Mario down when he tries to stop him, leading to an adventure of using power objects to power a vehicle to reach him. Yep, the first half is typical for Mario and the latter half is pretty much Galaxy specifically. However, there's one notable difference between Bowser's goals in that they aren't just conquest this time around. He simply wants to settle down and get married, with Peach, against her will. So yeah, it's like the Mario equivalent of a good old shotgun wedding. Mario isn't alone this time as Bowser also takes off with Cappy's beloved so they team up. Only through the power of friendship or something of the sort can they hope to achieve victory. Each world essentially consists of them always being one step behind and failing to stop Bowser from getting what he wants. After all, if you stopped him too quickly, there wouldn't be much of a plot, so you always just missed him from fulfilling whatever he needs for the next step of the wedding. Instead, you just try to put out the fires he tends to leave in his wake. Of course, Bowser isn't alone either. He has a whole squad of rabbits with him. No, not the rabbits. This isn't that Ubisoft crossover. Presenting themselves as a somewhat mafia group of rabbits under Bowser, the Brutals show up from time to time. Usually when they do, you have to fight one of them. In a nice bookend, both the first and last boss relating to them is actually Miss Brutal, seemingly their mother. They overall add enough to the story to be interesting, and it's especially satisfying when you get that final showdown with the rest of them in Bowser's castle. Ultimately, though, it's a Mario game, so you should mostly know what to expect in terms of plot. There's a surprisingly awesome twist after you finally do beat Bowser, but I'll save that so you can experience it for yourself. Trust me, it's a good one, and probably one you're now gonna see coming if you're expecting something major to happen, but it's still super satisfying. So not gonna lie, it doesn't really match the cinematic flair of Super Mario Galaxy. It probably wasn't going to top or even match the Mother of the Cosmos. It's a typical Peach kidnapping story. Thankfully though, there are enough twists and turns to still make it a very good plot. If you go in with the right expectations and don't expect Shakespeare from a Mario plot, I think it holds up very well and does everything it needs to do. Super Mario 3D World may have released on the Wii U, but Odyssey is the first Galaxy-esque 3D Mario to arrive on an HD system. As such, the presentation has never looked better in a Mario game. As I'm sure you've noticed though, Nintendo has thankfully spared us the horrors of a photorealistic Mario. Instead, he's still cartoony like a CGI cartoon made by Disney or DreamWorks and the like. This is true for pretty much all of the characters with one noteworthy exception. The citizens of New Donk City are interestingly portrayed fairly realistically, normal-looking humans in every way. And speaking of New Donk City, that was the location I was looking forward to the most from a presentation standpoint, and it certainly delivers. I'm a real sucker for that kind of mafia-esque New York style, and that's exactly what the game goes for here. If there's any area that shows off what the Nintendo Switch can do, it's perhaps this, with a bustling city full of traffic and people. Perhaps the one element from the city that isn't as realistically styled is understandably its mayor, Pauline. She's the original kidnapped girlfriend from the original Donkey Kong arcade game, and her appearance has evolved over the years. I think she looks great here. In her red dress, she really has a Jessica Rabbit quality to her, and I think it fits well with the game's style. You even get a very kicking finale to the city in the form of Jump High Superstar. It's a part of that festival mission I talked about in the gameplay section. Far from being a nice song too, it has a full-on sequence where you're going through various 2D sections that seem made to celebrate where Mario's come from. The big Donk Kong even makes an appearance, or rather the original arcade Donkey Kong, which I guess is actually Cranky Kong, but same difference. There's also a good amount of variety in the environments in general, with 18 distinct kingdoms. Well, mostly. 2 of them are on the moon, but most of them are pretty unique. From a garden maintained by robots to a Luncheon Kingdom, a sand kingdom that's ironically in a deep freeze, and even something that looks inspired by Dark Souls, it's not hurting for diverse scenes. No, seriously, the dragon boss you fight in this ruined kingdom looks like it would fit right in with a Dark Souls game, except thankfully it isn't anywhere near as hard as those games. Dark Eater Midear continues to haunt my dreams. Really though, nostalgia is all over the place with this game. After beating the game proper, you even gain access to Princess Peach's castle, which is very clearly inspired by Super Mario 64. It's to the point where the world-specific outfit is even 64's Mario model, chunky polygons and all. I mentioned that Nintendo doesn't seem to care much about presenting their older properties in the best light, not even Mario. Thankfully, the developers of this game clearly love everything about old Mario. It's a real labor of love from the developers all over the game. Jump High Superstar isn't the only time a kicking song plays either. To avoid spoilers, the endgame has its own stellar song called Break Free, and it's very Sonic the Hedgehog-esque in all the best ways. Songs are the only full vocals, though. This isn't Zelda or even Metroid. They're still primarily text with maybe a vocalized word here and there. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. As a whole, the game's as audibly pleasing on the ears as it is visually pleasing on the eyes. From the appropriate music in each world to the very upbeat fanfare that plays as you collect each moon with a more drawn-out sequence for multi-moons, music is top-notch in every sense of the term. In a rare moment, I actually have something to say about the sound effects because they're as charming as the rest of the game. Okay, I don't have that much to say about sound effects, but at least it's something other than that just they're there. This part is perhaps the spot you'll be least surprised by if you've been paying any kind of attention. The mainline Mario games tend to bring out the best of their game systems in terms of presentation, and Odyssey is definitely no exception. Clearly made to take advantage of Switch's hardware, it's a very gorgeous game with a generous amount of love and attention poured out. While Super Mario Galaxy was very impressive for a Wii game, Super Mario Odyssey is very impressive for a Switch game and just a game in general. The only time the game looks outdated are times where it's deliberately trying to tug at your nostalgia strings, and quality-wise it matches those visuals with audio. It more than gets my seal of approval. It really is like a DreamWorks or Disney movie in game form in all the best ways. Nintendo has been very lax on their older properties lately. Even Mario just got a 3-pack of poorly emulated games at full price. That being said, this attitude thankfully doesn't extend to their newer games. They tend to have all the bells and whistles, and Super Mario Odyssey thankfully delivers on that in spades. The gameplay, plot, and presentation are all at their most polished, and even though the Bowser kidnap story is getting a little old, at least enough was changed to keep it fresh. I'd certainly recommend the game to fans of Mario or fans of platforming games in general. Possessing your enemies is surprisingly fun.
Assuming direct control.
This has been my review of Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. I've got a live stream Friday at 4:30 p.m., news video next Thursday at 6 p.m., and Let's Plays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. daily. All Eastern Standard Time, but subscribe and hat toss that bell icon if you want to keep notified. A like is always appreciated, but I just hope you genuinely enjoyed it. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. Make sure to spread this video around like the number of different forms Mario has in this game, and I will see you next time. Go out there and capitalize on life. Peace out, have a good one, and have a nice and pleasant day.